Short of a spoon? Well, maybe Newcastle resident Des Warren can help. Collecting since 1982, Des has 30,000 spoons, giving him the world's largest spoon collection, and he has the certificates to prove it. It's a long way from the part-time hobby Des thought he'd get into when he retired 8 years ago.
I started with a few spoons that I had of my wife's, and I thought, gee, they look nice. They look nice on display. So I had a cabinet made to carry 300 odd, and I thought, oh, that looks good, so I better start and fill it up.
And fill up he did. Des has spoons from hundreds of countries, one to mark every season, ceremony or location, and of course, there's a tale behind each one. Half of Des's collection is currently on display at the Newcastle Region Public Library. Des says his knowledge of the world has increased tenfold since he started collecting. But that's not the only benefit.
The friendship in spoon collecting is terrific. It's all over the world, and I trade with 180 people throughout the world.
That's all very well, but what about the cleaning? Des takes on the awesome task once every 2 years, each case taking 6 hours to complete. And if you think he's crazy, you wouldn't be the first to say so.
Oh, I get called many crazy things. The bigger stirrer, the little stirrer, and what you want to stir for and everything.
Des's dream is to keep collecting, one day turning his collection into a tourist attraction and share his passion with the public. Catherine Lamond, NBN News. It was a happy occasion at the Richmond Vale Railway Museum today. 18 previously long-term unemployed people graduated from a 6-month job skills metal trade training course. A third of the group were based at the Hunter Valley Training Company's Talara workshops, the others at the Railway Museum, restoring a variety of lathes, which will now help maintain the museum's operational steam locos. But now they've done that, what's next? 4 of today's graduates have found full-time employment. For the others, the immediate future appears to lead back to the dole queues. With unemployment now above 11%, those queues for assistance, be it cash, food or shelter, are getting longer.
Certainly the Samaritans Foundation is finding that the continued high unemployment figures that are coming out are certainly being mirrored in the demands for us for assistance. During June,
Paul Tomlinson, a Richmond Vale graduate, says morale amongst the unemployed is low.
I think most people think it's going to get worse. I think they've lost all sense of hope, I think.
The Samaritans, like many charities, is working to restore that sense of hope, but demands for help are increasing.
Areas like cash assistance for people also to pay bills and that type of thing, they're certainly demanding.
In January, the Samaritans handed out around 200 food parcels. Last month, that rose to 400. At the beginning of this year, 600 families received assistance. Last month, more than 1,000 families were helped. And Mr Blackson adds the Foundation's 3 refuges are consistently full.
There is a need for further occupancy areas around, particularly for medium to long-term accommodation options for young people.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Boating is a popular pastime off Port Stephens. The Volunteer Coastal Patrol has had a presence in the area for 20 years. In that time, it's been involved in numerous search and rescue missions. With the establishment of the new Coastal Patrol base at Nelson Bay, boating is now safer. The complex was officially opened today by New South Wales Governor Rear Admiral Peter Sinclair. The new complex is primarily a radio base for sea search and rescues. However, if there's a major emergency on land, it'll be used as a coordination command centre. The unusually shaped building provides a much better view of the ocean and inside waters. The centre was designed by architect Ron Brown. It blends in with the historic Nelson Head Lighthouse, which is situated nearby. Many hard-working volunteers donated time and money to build the patrol base and emergency centre. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Wombrel turned on one of its classic swells for the competition. 1 minute it would be calm and gentle. Next, giant walls of water loomed and caused all sorts of havoc for crews. One crewman from a Sydney club felt just how painful it can be. He sustained an ankle injury after hitting a wave just too fast. Speed was the crucial factor. You either had too much of it or not enough. In one heat of the simulated rescues, Australian champions Nobbies were dead last leaving the beach, but by the time they came back to shore, finished second. Caltex handed out $3,000 in prize money today. A further 7 will be offered over the remaining 2 rounds at Port Macquarie and Newcastle. Today's overall winners were Central Coast Club Soldiers Beach, Catherine Hill Bay and Nobbies tied for second, with Tea Gardens Hawk's Nest fourth. The free outboard motor drawn from the hat went to the Avoca Club.
The accident happened just before midday. A 12-year-old boy was hit by an oncoming car when he ran across Wyong Road at Tumbiumbi. Ambulance officers treated the boy for a fracture and lacerations. He was taken to Gosford Hospital. Police won't be laying charges against the driver.
Ambulance officers and firefighters stood well away from the Ann Street house as police negotiators attempted to talk out a 36-year-old who doused himself and the house with petrol. Police spoke to the man through the front door as he puffed on a cigarette. Paths and rooms reeked of fuel. Police met the man's request to see his wife and 6 children, but it took more than an hour to transport them to the local police station under escort. Assured they'd arrived, the man gave himself up to police and was taken in for questioning. Firefighters set to airing the house, which was said to be sitting like a bomb waiting to go off.
The fact that we didn't overcrowd the place and stayed away and just did it as the negotiators need to do, it's been a good result.
The weather ensured the landing lights were on to try and guide the Knights towards a win. Jamie Ainscoe picked up on the hint and looked like he was going to snare the first points. But before the Knights knew it, the attack was turned around and Gilmeister went over without a hand laid on him. Julian O'Neill followed him a few minutes later for a dubious 4 points. To their credit, Newcastle didn't drop their bundle. Boyd paved the way. Matthew Rodwell provided the passes. Adam Muir just saw the try line.
I'm pretty dirty on myself about that, but it was a good pass and I just dropped it. It could have made a difference actually.
2 minutes after half-time, the armour started to dent, Langer providing plenty of glee for wet Brisbane fans.
When they scored straight out to half-time, that sort of broke our backs a bit, and from then they just went from strength to strength.
The wet weather only compounded the problems. Ball handling became near impossible in the slop. Paul Harrigan a little sore today after Alan Cann tried to get a good grip on him. One of the positives out of the game, though, is the loyalty of the Knights fans. More than 12,000 sat in appalling conditions, happy to watch their team go around. However, there won't be quite as much support when the Knights head to New Zealand this Sunday to play Eastern Suburbs.
Collisions at traffic light controlled intersections are a major cause for concern according to police and the RTA, but since the introduction of the red light cameras in Sydney a few years ago, accident statistics have been halved. High-ranking police officers put Newcastle on notice today that red light cameras will be in action here in 2 weeks.
The cameras are designed to catch the person who flagrantly breaches the traffic control light.
The first 5 units will be operational at the intersections of Pacific Highway and Maud Street, Belmont, Industrial Drive and Ingle Street, Mayfield, Maitland Road and Industrial Drive, Mayfield West, West Walls End Road and Frederick Street, Glendale, Carey Street and the Boulevard, Toronto. Another 10 locations will be covered by the end of the year. Each installation costs about $80,000 and police insist the cameras aren't revenue raisers.
They're certainly not just another sting for motorists. The idea with the cameras at the intersections is purely and simply to address the road toll.
The cameras are activated only when the lights have turned red and a car entering the intersection trips a sensor in the road. 2 photos are snapped at 0.3 and 0.7 of a second. Proof is in the picture, and a $172 fine and the loss of 3 points from your licence will soon be in the mail.
Central Coast were doing well until it came to the final. At times their fielding fell apart. The Illawarra Pirates were belting the ball all around the park. This one was heading out of the complex until one of the coasties got a glove to it. The Central Coast Sharks rallied at one point and threw everything they had into the game, but the Pirates had a full head of steam up and kept running across home plate. The final score not a true indication of how well the Sharks played to make it to the final.
In the eye, just before 7, 4 cars and a semi-trailer were tangled in a twisted knot that led to a 3-hour traffic snarl. A trapped 38-year-old man from Floraville regained consciousness after being shunted from behind by a truck, only to realise his wrecked car was on fire and he couldn't get out.
When he went to open the door, his driver's door, he couldn't open it, and at that stage the car must have been alight.
The truck driver and 2 other motorists ran to his assistance and managed to wrench the car door open in the nick of time.
If it wasn't for these 3 guys, he definitely would have been probably caught in there.
Paramedics said the man's hair had been singed and he was taken to hospital for treatment for a bump to the head, but later released. Traffic slowed to a trickle around the scene as accident investigation officers gathered information. The road was cleared by about 10 o'clock.
The perennial quest for the perfect pickup line. And a quick scan of any personal classifieds column will tell you that Mr or Ms Rights are pretty thin on the ground. So the opening line better be good.
I hate these places. They're just thinly disguised pick-up joints.
I know.
Just what happens when the line actually works and two singles suddenly find themselves as a couple in the confused, sexually infectious 1990s is the subject of a new comedy, A Table for One. The play follows the ups and downs of four characters through a year's worth of liaisons. Writer and director Claire Haywood says she hasn't taken the subject of sexual politics lying down.
I did a lot of research in gyms and clubs. No, I mean, it's based on my own experiences, I suppose, of being 30 and single a while back.
Claire, just how hard is it in the confused, nervous 90s for a young man or woman to find Mr or Ms Right?
I think it's a lot harder now than, say, it was in our parents' time, and people have ideals, and I suppose there's feminism has changed our perspective on certainly the expectations that women have of men.
Certainly it's hard for Terence Crawford's character, Nick. When it comes to women, Nick is, well, a pig. Terence, after your research for the character, your playing of the character, any good tips for young men out there looking for Ms Right?
No.
Oh well, I guess that takes us back to the question on every single's lips.
Where can I find you?
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Despite threatening skies, the 13th annual Dr Jerd's Jungle Juice Cup went ahead uninterrupted. The full 8-event race card run, with the track upgraded from heavy to slow. A large crowd gathered, officials estimated in excess of 5,000. While many were kept busy behind the scenes preparing the horses, others occupied their time studying the guide or jigging to a little ringside rhythm. But patrons appeared to dedicate most of their energies to familiarising themselves with the race day's liquid namesake and what of the juice.
How's the juice? The juice is great.
Pretty rough. It's pretty good, warms the cockles of your heart.
And others, well, no comment. Also a major attraction today, the return of Cessnock-born jockey Robert Thompson, back home following a 2-year stint in Hong Kong.
We're delighted that he's back here permanently. It'll be a great boost to our turnover, both here at Cessnock and also Broadmeadow.
And he's doing well so far?
He's ridden 2 winners already today as we speak before the Cup. Perhaps it might be number 3 coming up.
And in race 6, the Dr Jerd's Cup, he delivered the goods. For 11 and 12, the Quinella paid $31.80, the trifecta $683.20. It was the 4th Dr Jerd's Jungle Juice Cup win for Cessnock baker Jeremy Sylvester, who, incidentally, only bought Mighty Ramu 3 weeks ago for $3,000. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The world aluminium market has been in the doldrums for the past 3 years. Despite that, a company called Alumino Australia has unveiled plans for a high-tech plant that will turn aluminium waste, or dross, into a usable product. According to the company, the technology employed in the Rutherford plant will be environmentally friendly, with no use of potentially damaging salt like in other recycling processes.
When buried underground, the salt leaches into the groundwater, and this causes long-term environmental problems. With our technology, we don't add any salt or chemicals.
The company plans to take waste from nearby smelters, which was one of the prime reasons for locating the plant in Maitland.
So one of the most important was that it's close to the major smelters of Tomago and Curry.
But the announcement came as a surprise to Maitland Mayor Bob G, since a development application hadn't even been lodged until today. Councillor G was optimistic the plant would eventually bring $20 million and up to 36 jobs to the community.
It's a project that's worth in the vicinity of $30–40 million. And if you add that to marry that up with the other project proposed, the wool store at Rutherford, you're looking at a total investment for Maitland in the vicinity of $200 million.
The company hopes to begin building the plant in 3 months. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Now, Michael?
Yeah, but they're not very tight.
This is the Littley who caused a stir when he decided to arrive without warning. Mother Bunty Loopy started having contractions at 1:25. She woke her husband Robert, who rang for an ambulance. It was too late though. The baby was on his way.
1 minute I've had small contractions, the next minute it was just that forceful that I just had to lay down. I knew that if I stood up, it's just gonna come.
You could see the head showing, and I'd already rang the ambulance, and I had to ring back again because I needed someone to tell me something, because it was coming.
On the other end of the phone was ambulance officer John Rayner. He's helped deliver 14 babies, but this was his first by phone.
I just basically instructed the father on how to cope, to find out what stage of the labour she was up to. The head had appeared, so it was a matter of basically delivering the baby from them.
It took just 20 minutes for the baby to arrive. No complications, just excitement.
What is it, a boy or girl?
Boy.
Boy?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my goodness, now he's dried the baby off.
Right.
Now what?
Now wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Leave the cord sort of exposed there.
Because it's still connected with me, the cord.
Yes.
With the ambulance still on its way, John knew the umbilical cord had to be severed.
Have you got some shoelaces?
Shoelaces? Shoelaces, get some shoelaces out of my shoe. Will that do?
Yeah, you get me, we'll need about 3, I think.
Bunty and son, who's yet to be named, left Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital this afternoon for their Dudley home. Both healthy and happy. Dad Robert is still amazed.
Pretty exciting, pretty quick. It'd be all right if I were all like that, but I don't like doing it at home.
6 minutes into last Saturday's game and Neil Baker was out like a light. Realising he wasn't there admiring the blue sky, an all-in brawl broke out between both sides. Glenn Messenger was called out for a late tackle but claims he only hit Baker with the shoulder charge. He was sin-binned for 10 minutes, however the league is deciding tonight whether he should be cited. Neil Baker wants to take it further. His jaw was broken in the tackle and will have to be wired, ending his season prematurely. He's now contemplating taking court action against the Curry player.
I'm not the type of person that takes grudges against people, but I certainly like my football, and if I'm going to miss out, I might have to do something for sure.
The break will also hurt financially. He now loses player payments and must take time off work for surgery. To add insult to injury, while he was being carried off, the Curry crowd booed him.
Obviously I've come out worse for wear, but when I was going off on the field, I was talking to some friends after the game and they said they booed me off, and I reckon that's pretty ordinary.
The loss to Curry proved pretty costly to West. Peter Chapman suffered a dislocated elbow, and Shane Mackley must face the judiciary for allegedly using an elbow. With the finals just around the corner and tension between teams is certain to increase, the league must also look at which referees it appoints to potentially troublesome games.
Robert Gray began his career at Lake Macquarie Council. He's now Assistant General Manager in Wollongong. He was born and bred in Fennell Bay and was in fact the first school captain of Fennell Bay Primary School. In 1983 he left his job as assistant to the town clerk and went south pursuing a career. Now he's set to return and he couldn't be happier.
I left there with the objective of getting some experience and hopefully broadening my knowledge and my expertise enough to be able to go back there one day as a general manager. So it's really been a long-term goal for myself and I'm really happy that I've been able to achieve it.
Mr Gray is well aware of the problems which have plagued the Lake Council, including its poor public image and the controversy surrounding former Mayor Doug Carley. He's keen to work with the new Mayor, who'll be chosen on Saturday.
We'll be promoting it's a new era for the city, so we'll put all of those things behind us and our objective will be to go forward now.
And it appears Mr Gray has big plans for the city.
I guess my major goal is just to really build a team there, to project a human face of the council out to the community, a friendly face, and the fact that it is a team within the organisation and we're all working together with the community to try and develop the city of Lake Macquarie.
Council will formalise Mr Gray's appointment at Monday night's council meeting. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Earlier this year, the state government announced it would not increase court fees. Consequently, there's been a $15 million reduction in the budget of the Court Administration Department. Despite rumours that this would cost jobs of more than 3,000 employees, Minister for Justice John Hannaford says no one will be forced out of work.
There'll be no reduction in court services anywhere in the state as a result of this, and nobody will be forced into retiring if they don't wish to.
The Minister was speaking at today's official opening of Newcastle's Community Justice Centre. Located diagonally opposite the courthouse in Bolton Street, the centre provides a quick, cost-effective way of solving neighbourhood disputes. Anyone with a dispute of any kind can visit the centre, where an independent third party can try to help work out the problem before it reaches the courtroom.
We have about a 90% success rate in getting the parties to resolve their problems in these facilities.
The centre is a first for the Hunter region and after only 2 months of operation has been inundated with cases.
It has become the busiest community justice centre in the whole of the state. It indicates that there is a pent-up demand in the Hunter which is now being eased by opening this facility today.
By a number of counts, and also note that the other local members of Parliament.
Thank you.
Morning headlines led many residents to fear they'd been living with a toxic time bomb in their backyards. The threat, coal tar, a byproduct of gas making, which was carried out on a site now home to the Maitland Cinema Complex. The area was given the all clear for the cinemas go ahead, but now Council and the EPA will investigate the possibility that the coal tar residues may have seeped into neighbouring residential properties and a school playground.
Not the sort of thing that calls for alarm or calls for any sort of panic or crisis response. What we're dealing with, all the information that we have available to us, suggests that there is no significant threat or immediate threat to human health.
The Public Health Unit is aware of respiratory problems and skin irritations associated with prolonged exposure to coal tar, but such cases mainly relate to workers from a bygone era. Maitland Aberdare County Council gasworks wound up in 1958. Receivers for the failed company that developed the cinema site are suing the property trust which originally sold the land, claiming that the buyers were unaware of any contamination. Drill samples may be carried out around Maitland streets to establish whether the coal tar spread.
We're so concerned about it, in fact, that the General Manager of Maitland City Council and myself will be meeting the Regional Director of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, tomorrow.
If people are on a residential property and they've been living there and they've been digging their garden or whatever, and they have not seen anything or smelt anything that smelt like or looked like tar compounds, well then it's highly unlikely that they have a problem. And it's just the possibility.
Motor enthusiasts from across the country have brought the end product of countless hours of work to the annual Rickshaw Hot Rod and Custom Car Show. The vast collection of hot rods, street rods, custom cars and classics were wheeled in and polished up for the motor show this weekend.
There's something for everyone at all. It doesn't matter what they are, what range, age range, there's always something here to someone likes and appreciates.
This 1992 EA Ford Falcon has been radically modified. It's now worth $120,000, and when it's on the drag strip it can reach 320 kilometres an hour in 6 seconds. If a trip down memory lane is more your style, how about this 1940s American-style hot rod? Or this Yank Tank, the family car of the 50s? Bob Heggie says for most of these enthusiasts it's an expensive hobby.
Beats growing carrots or collecting stamps, and you've really got something to show for what you've done.
The car show will be open all weekend at Elders Wool Store in the Newcastle suburb of Wickham. Jane Anderson, NBN News.